Okay, we are down to the last day and a half, basically, of our hunt. It's noon on day 5, so still really quiet. We had that one bull yesterday evening that responded to us 3 or 4 times from the next holler over, from the next, not holler, the next ridge top over. But he would never come in. So I've got 2 or 3 more places here nearby. One of them is a burn area that has some meadows that connect with it. I'm gonna go try that out here. I'm gonna go look at it here before we go eat lunch. See if it's something worth going back to this evening. And then rains moved in last night, and there was quite a bit of cloud cover, and it looked like roughly 10,000 feet and above had clouds socked in, so visibility would be really low up there today. So I don't know, running out of time, gotta figure something out. Those little ones. No, those are small. There's 4 right there. So here we are, the last afternoon of the last day, and we're doing something a little different. We found another isolated meadow back between 2 different springs. There's quite a bit of elk sign in here, but it's also along a small trail here that a lot of the horseback riders here use, so it's a bit of a gamble, but there is some fresh elk sign in here. There's also a ton of bear sign, and it looks to be a large bear from the scat piles it's leaving. So we're gonna set up here over in the trees along the edge of this meadow and just watch it, because they're not responding to calls, and we're to the point now to where we think that if we call anymore, we may just turn them off completely. So I don't know, we'll see. Hey everybody, so we're back home from our trip now, and I figured it'd be a good opportunity for me to kind of talk about some of the things that I have, I guess, reflected on from the trip, lessons learned, things to do differently in the future, maybe go over a little bit of what we did and maybe how we could have done things a little bit differently. But I guess first thing I want to say is, you know, this trip was pretty special to us in that this was one of my dad's bucket list things he wanted to do. You know, he's wanted to do this hunt for 40 plus years, never had the chance. You know, kids came along and work got in the way. And so, you know, when I mentioned earlier this year taking him and my brother out there on a hunt, he jumped at the opportunity. And kind of selfishly, I was pushing him to do a mule deer or antelope hunt, because I knew it would be easier as far as not as physically demanding. You know, he just turned 66 yesterday, so I knew it would be a little bit demanding for him. and I put in a lot of time over the summer training for this. I bought my Mystery Ranch pack and loaded it up with weight, and we live on top of a hill here in East Tennessee. And I was walking the hill every day. I realized it didn't simulate the altitude difference that we're going to run into in Colorado, but it got my legs and my body muscular wise prepared. And I never had any physical limitations while in Colorado, but I was worried about him. And when he said he wanted to go on an elk hunt instead, I was a little bit leery because of that. But after I looked at it and understood that it was his bucket list thing, then I was all in. The timing of this hunt was, we were out there the third week of the season. It was immediately after the muzzleloader season had ended. Actually, we started hunting the first day that we hunted was the last day of muzzleloader season. We talked to some locals there who said that they had been inundated with muzzleloader hunters the week before, and they didn't know really what it had done to the elk. They were concerned that they had pushed the elk back into the back country. We found a spot. I had a lot of areas marked on onX maps from online scouting before, and we had been out there 2 years ago and had hiked the area and found a lot of areas that we liked 2 years ago. So we started hitting the areas that I had marked, and ironically, one of the real low-key places that I had marked, I actually thought it had potential because it was such an unusual area that I thought most people would drive past it in an effort to get to the larger tracts of public land. And we found more sign there, more elk sign there, droppings, rubs, beds, you name it, in that area than we did probably in all the other places we went to combined. And basically, I think it's just a resident elk herd population that lives down at the lower elevation near some agricultural fields and some water sources. Never did get them to come in. We did hear a bugle there finally on the very last night at that area. As we were getting ready to leave, walking out, we heard a bugle up near where we had hiked one of the days. So, that area was suffering from extremely high temperatures. It was in the mid-80s for a large portion of the trip we were there, and we're talking, this is September 15th through 22nd. Mid-80s is pretty hot, and they were in a drought condition too. Very different water conditions than it was when I was there 2 years ago. So, looking back on some things that we may have done differently, probably would have called more. Although the locals told us that the elk were probably call shy because they had been hit so hard the week before, we were cautious with our calling. We didn't want to overcall and kind of spook them any. But looking back, I probably would have called more, especially cow called more. We did start getting more aggressive with our cow calling the last 2 days, but nothing significant. And the bugling, I practiced quite a bit over the summer. I bought a dual game calls elk bugle when I was at the turkey convention in Nashville back in February, and I practiced quite a bit with that. The problem was practicing here in a high humidity environment was, here goes a deer running behind me. Did you see it on the camera? He's standing right there in the field. There. What are the odds? Running right through the yard. That's a little spike. Anyway, you're lucky, buddy. You're lucky. He's just standing there looking at me still. Your time will come, my friend. Anyway, so, man, what are the odds? There he goes. There's a bunch of persimmon trees over there. They're in the yard all eating all the time. So, I forget where I was at. Oh, the humidity difference. My lips always dried out on me. And so when I would press my lips up against that vinyl or silicone, whatever, latex diaphragm that they have on that call, the chapped tackiness of my lips would stick to it. And I was having a hard time getting the signal, the sound that I wanted out of it. So that I'm next time before we go, I'm going to practice a lot more with that. Archery shooting, practiced shooting a lot over the summer, leading up to it. Every day, I was shooting, 12 to 24, a dozen to 2 dozen shots a day, out to 60 yards. And I was very comfortable and confident in my shooting. So that's one thing that I would do again, and I'm pretty pleased with. And the physical conditioning that I went through before the trip, I'm really comfortable with. This was our first ever Western hunt. Really new to all of us, me, my dad, and my brother. So, there's a few things we learned from that. Like I said, the calling. I would probably try to get Dad to be a little bit more proactive in the summertime getting ready. We went up to 11,000 feet on the second to last day, and the scenery was fantastic. The habitat was amazing, just didn't see or hear. We heard one call, one bugle when we got back to the car after dark, or the truck after dark, but I think that was another hunter calling. So, just a few follow-up thoughts. Blessed to be able to go on this trip. They're both already anxious and looking forward to the next trip. So we'll see what happens there. And anyway, stay tuned. This is the last video in the Colorado elk series. So I'll be loading this up hopefully into the day today. And then tomorrow I'm going to start pulling together my day-by-day whitetail series, which, as you can see, they like to rub it in my face. So I haven't hunted very much this year so far here, but haven't had a shot at anything. That's probably the closest I've been to a deer here at the farm so far this year. So ironic it's on video now. So anyway, well, thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. Leave a comment. If you have any thoughts on this, want to offer any advice for what you saw, what we could do differently, I appreciate it. So God bless. Have a good day. Thanks.